Welcome to the YouTube lessons on ECGs in clinical practice. I am Dr. Mrs. D.S. Gunawardana, one of the consultant cardiac electrophysiologists working attached to the National Hospital Kandy, Sri Lanka. I have been working in the same station since year 2003. Since then, I have been conducting classes on interpretation of ECGs to medical students, medical officers, and postgraduate trainees. The textbook ECGs in Clinical Practice was written and published by me in year 2019. Material in this YouTube lecture series are from ECGs in Clinical Practice. I hope this YouTube lecture series will help you interpret ECGs. Lesson 1. Introduction. To interpret ECGs, the interpreter should have a correct idea about three-dimensional structure of the heart, correct idea about cardiac segments, electrode views, and coronary anatomy. And the interpreter should have a correct idea about relationship between electrode views and coronary anatomy. This diagram shows the anterior view of the heart. Now, once the midline sternotomy is done and the thoracic cavity is laid open, this is the view you can see. This is the base of the heart. This is the lateral border of the heart. This is the inferior wall of the heart, and this is the right border of the heart. At the base of the heart, to the right, anteriorly, what you can see is the right atrium. Then to the left, in the midway, you can see the main pulmonary artery, and this is the right ventricular outflow tract, and this is the right ventricle. So at the base level, you can see the right ventricular outflow tract and the main pulmonary artery. Then further to left, you can see left atrial appendage. In the anterior view, you can see only the left atrial appendage. You can't see the left atrium proper. Then this is the atrioventricular groove. The atrioventricular groove lies almost in the vertical plane, in this plane. Usually, what medical students think that the atrioventricular groove lies in horizontal plane and at the top atria, at the bottom ventricles. That is wrong. So, because of this position of atrioventricular groove, at the base to right you can see atria, then at the bottom to the left you can see ventricles. Below the atrioventricular groove, anteriorly you can see the right ventricle. Then to left, anteriorly you can see interventricular groove and coronary blood vessels. On the anterior view, you can see only a small strip of the anterior wall of the left ventricle. That is because the left ventricle proper lies posteriorly. This is the apex of the heart. So on the diaphragm, anteriorly, inferior wall of the right ventricle lies, and then interventricular groove, and then most posteriorly inferior wall of the left ventricle lies. If we dissect this heart, you will be able to learn the three-dimensional structure of the heart correctly. Let's first dissect the right atrium. If right atrium is dissected, posteriorly you can see the interatrial septum. If the interatrial septum is also dissected, further posteriorly you can see the left atrium towards the spine. If the right ventricle is dissected, posteriorly you can see interventricular septum. If the interventricular septum is also dissected, next you can see left ventricular cavity posteriorly. Then what is the most posterior structure at the ventricular level is the true posterior wall of the left ventricle, which lies close to the spine. I hope with this description you have got a correct idea about the three-dimensional structure of the heart. Because of this three-dimensional structure of the heart, the interatrial and interventricular septa are sandwiched between right heart anteriorly and the left heart posteriorly. Now, this diagram shows the three-dimensional structure of ventricles. This is posterior towards spine, this is anterior towards the sternum. In this diagram, both atria and atrioventricular valves are dissected. So what you can see anteriorly? The right ventricle. Then behind, interventricular septum and interventricular groove. Then far behind, left ventricular cavity, and then the posterior wall of the left ventricle. So this is the lateral wall of the left ventricle. So this upper part of the lateral wall of the left ventricle is called high lateral wall of the left ventricle, and below that lower lateral wall of the left ventricle and left ventricular apex. Now on the diaphragm, anteriorly inferior wall of the right ventricle lies, then behind towards the spine inferior wall of the left ventricle lies. This inferior wall of the left ventricle lies opposite to the high lateral wall of the left ventricle because of this three-dimensional structure of the heart. Therefore, patient develops an acute inferior myocardial infarction. These leads which record electrical activity of the high lateral wall will record ST depressions or reciprocal. Therefore, what is the definition of reciprocal? In acute ST elevated myocardial infarction, the opposite group of leads will show mirror image or ST depressions. Similarly, this is the anterior wall of the left ventricle. The anterior wall of the left ventricle and the interventricular septum both lie opposite to the true posterior wall of the left ventricle. Therefore, if there is an acute true posterior wall myocardial infarction, the leads which record electrical activity of the anterior wall of the left ventricle and interventricular septum, that is lead V1 to V3, will show ST depressions or reciprocal of true posterior myocardial infarction. Therefore, in the presence of a suggestive history, if 12-lead ECG shows ST depression from V1 to V3, you have to suspect true posterior myocardial infarction and you have to ask for repeat ECG immediately with extended chest leads V7 to V9. Now this diagram shows cardiac segments and electrode views. What are the cardiac segments? Now I told this is the high lateral wall of the left ventricle. So high lateral wall of the left ventricle, this is the lower lateral wall of the left ventricle, this is the LV apex. So these are cardiac segments. So this is the anterior wall of the left ventricle, that is one of the cardiac segments. This is the right ventricle. This is the inferior wall of the left ventricle, which lies far behind on the diaphragm. This is the interventricular septum. These are the two cavities, right ventricular cavity and left ventricular cavity. This is the posterior wall of the left ventricle. So these are cardiac segments. So electrical activity of the given segment is recorded by given group of leads. As an example, if you get the high lateral wall of the left ventricle, the electrical activity of the high lateral wall of the left ventricle is recorded by lead 1 and AVL. This is called high lateral group of leads. Electrical activity of the lower lateral wall of the left ventricle is recorded by lead V5, V6. These are called lateral leads. Electrical activity of the LV apex is recorded by lead V4. Electrical activity of the anterior wall of the left ventricle is recorded by lead V1. Electrical activity of the right ventricle is recorded by lead V4R. Remember that in standard 12-lead ECG, V4R lead is not included. Therefore, if patient's history is suggestive of acute coronary event, when you make the request for ECG, you have to make the request for V4R lead as well, especially if the patient is in cardiogenic shock. Right ventricular infarction gives rise to cardiogenic shock. Now, this is the true posterior wall of the left ventricle. The electrical activity of the true posterior wall is recorded by V7, V8, V9 leads. Electrical activity of ventricular cavities are recorded by lead V1 and AVR. During the depolarization of ventricles, the depolarization current passes from endocardium to the epicardium. Therefore, lead V1 and AVR can see that the current is going away from them. Therefore, as you know, in a normal ECG, lead V1 and AVR will record all the deflections as negative. P wave is negative, there is a dominant S wave, and the T wave is negative. All other leads can see that the depolarization current is coming towards them. Therefore, all of them record deflections as positive. P positive, there is a dominant R wave, and the T wave is positive. And in addition to that, as you know, the cardiac vector runs inferiorly to left. it lies parallel to lead 2 axis. Because of that, in a normal ECG from V1 to V6, if you analyze the R wave, you can see R wave progression. Amplitude of R wave gradually increases when it is going towards V5, V6. That is called normal R wave progression. Now this diagram repeats the electrode views. To make it simple, you see this is the high lateral load electrical activity recorded by 1 AVL, lower lateral load electrical activity recorded by V5, V6, apical electrode activity recorded by V4 lead, inferior wall electrical activity recorded by lead 2, 3 AVF, right ventricular electrical activity recorded by V4R lead, interventricular septum electrical activity recorded by V2, V3, posterior wall electrical activity recorded by V7, V8, V9. Now let's learn the relationship between coronary anatomy and cardiac segments. Now this simple diagram shows the heart. This is the base of the heart. This is the lateral wall of the left ventricle. This is the apex. So this is the diaphragm on which the inferior wall of both ventricles lie. This is the aorta. The right coronary artery, it comes down and supplies the inferior wall of the left ventricle. The first branch of the right coronary supplies the SA node, then it supplies the AV node, and in majority the true posterior wall of the left ventricle is supplied by the right circumflex artery. Then the major branch which supplies the right ventricle, it is called right ventricular branch. Then right coronary ends up in supplying the inferior wall of the left ventricle. In 30% of population, this right coronary may supply the lower lateral wall of the left ventricle as well. These are individual variations. If there is a total occlusion at any level of the right coronary artery, which leads will show abnormalities? Yes, obviously lead 2, 3 AVF will show ST segment elevations, and meanwhile the high lateral group 1 AVL will show ST segment depressions, reciprocal. If the occlusion is above the right ventricular branch, what else you can see on the ECG? Yes, V4R lead will show ST segment elevations. If the occlusion is above the right circumflex artery, and if in this patient the true posterior wall is supplied by the right circumflex artery, what else you will see on the ECG? ST segment depressions from V1 to V3. If the occlusion, total occlusion is above the AV nodal branch, what will you see on the ECG? Complete heart block, because total conduction failure of the AV node. Now let's move to the left main coronary artery blood supply. It divides into two, left anterior descending and left circumflex. The left anterior descending supplies the 2/3 of the left ventricle. Anterior wall of the left ventricle. high lateral wall, lower lateral wall, LV apex, interventricular septum and bundles. Both right and left bundle branches, they are located in the anterior two-thirds of the interventricular septum. The first branch of the proximal LAD supplies the high lateral wall of the left ventricle. Then there are septal perforators. They supply anterior two-thirds of the interventricular septum and both bundles, right and left. Then the left LAD comes down and supplies the lower lateral wall of the left ventricle. Rest of the LAD comes down and supplies the LV apex. The branches of LAD are marked as D. D1, D2, D3, D4 like that. The LAD segment above D1 or the high lateral branch is called proximal LAD. If there is a total occlusion of the proximal LAD, what are the leads and cardiac segments which will show abnormalities? Anterior wall, lead V1, high lateral, that means 1 AVL, septum V2, V3, V4 apex, V5, V6 lower lateral. So that means 1 AVL plus V1 to V6 will show ischemic changes, or else the ECG will show ischemic right bundle branch block or ischemic left bundle branch block. Only the posterior wall of the left ventricle and posterior third of the interventricular septum are not affected in proximal LAD occlusion. Therefore, two-thirds of the left ventricle is affected and patient is in either cardiogenic shock, severe pulmonary edema or left ventricular failure. The prognosis is poor if the lesion is not intervened urgently. If the occlusion of the LAD is at the ostium of the D1, what are the abnormalities you get on the ECG? If it is a total occlusion at the ostium of D1, the high lateral wall will undergo total ischemia. Therefore, lead 1 AVL will show ST segment elevations and lead 2-3 AVF will show ST segment depressions. Those are the reciprocal. Remember that in some ECGs, the reciprocal changes are more prominent than the ST segment elevations. If the total occlusion of the LAD is below the D1 branch, then what are the abnormalities you see? The interventricular septum, apex and the lower lateral wall will undergo total ischemia. Therefore, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6 will show ischemic changes. That is called either septo-apico-lateral myocardial infarction or anterolateral myocardial infarction. If the occlusion of the LAD is here, in the mid LAD, the apex, LV apex and the lower lateral wall will undergo total ischemia and V4, V5, V6 leads will show ST elevations. That is called apico-lateral myocardial infarction. Apico-lateral myocardial infarction. Now let's move to left circumflex artery. It supplies the posterior wall of the left ventricle if the right circumflex does not supply the posterior wall. Therefore, if there is a total occlusion in that kind of patient, you can see ST depressions from V1 to V3 in 12 lead ECG. In 30% of population, this left circumflex comes down in the posterior interventricular groove and it turns up and supplies the inferior wall of the left ventricle. In that kind of patient, ECG will show acute inferior myocardial infarction with true posterior myocardial infarction. These are individual variations. Now this slide summarizes the cardiac segments involved and the affected leads. If the occlusion is in the proximal LAD, I told that lead 1 AVL and V1 to V6 will show ischemic changes. That MI is called extensive anterior myocardial infarction. Or else, patient can develop ischemic bundle branch block. That's how you recognize the area involved. If the occlusion of the LAD below D1 branch, then V2 to V6 will show abnormalities. So in that case, lead 1 AVL are not included. So this is either called septo-apicolateral MI or anterolateral myocardial infarction. If the occlusion is in the mid LAD, the lead V4 to V6 will show abnormalities, that is called apicolateral MI. If the septal perforators, ostia of septal perforators are affected, V2 to V3 will show ST segment abnormalities, ischemic changes, or ECG will show ischemic bundle branch block. Now let's move to right coronary artery. As I discussed, if there is occlusion in the right coronary artery, depending on the level of the occlusion, the ECG will show ECG abnormalities in lead 2-3 AVF. If the occlusion is above the right ventricular branch, ST elevation in V4R, and if it is above the AV nodal branch, complete heart block. And in this patient, if the true posterior wall is also supplied by the right coronary, ST depression from V1 to V3 as well. Those are the reciprocal of true posterior MI. If there is occlusion of the left circumflex, the patient will develop true posterior myocardial infarction if the posterior wall is supplied by the left circumflex. Now, I hope you all have seen coronary angio reports. This is one of our patient's coronary angio report. Now, look at aorta. This is the right coronary. This is the left main coronary artery. This is the left anterior descending, and this is the circumflex. In a given patient with ischemic heart disease, often has multiple atheromatous plaques. But in 80% of patients with ischemic heart disease, a single atheromatous plaque becomes unstable. In 80% of patients with ischemic heart disease, though there are multiple atheromatous plaques on the coronary tree, single atheromatous plaque becomes unstable. That's a theory. Therefore, patient develops acute coronary event, abnormalities are confined to the segments of the heart which are supplied by the affected coronary artery. Either it is confined to the right coronary artery or confined to the left anterior descending or left circumflex artery. Now we have come to the end of this YouTube lecture series on interpretation of ECGs. Thank you so much to all of you.